Chapter 13. Your mother is safe at my house, Mr. Mower shouted over the roaring fire. One of Mr. Mower's friends has taken Mama in there in a buggy hours before. My house is far to the north, he said. The flames won't reach there. She didn't want to leave the hotel, but I promised her that I would find you. He explained this as they ran into the corner. The streets were practically deserted. Almost everyone else on the block had already fled. Mr. Mower had stayed behind, risking his life to look for Oscar. Oscar opened his mouth to thank him, to tell him about Jenny and Bruno, but his voice was wrecked from the smoke in his shouting, and he didn't know how to begin. A cab stood at the corner, the horse covered with a soaking wet blanket to protect it from the sparks. A familiar voice shouted to them through the smoke. Got him, Charlie? It was Joseph, the cab driver Oscar had met earlier. I do, Mr. Malcott. Mr. Mowers got half the city of Chicago looking for you, son, Joseph said as he climbed in. Seconds later, they were inside the buggy, and the horse took off in a gallop. The two walls of flame were moving towards each other, but Joseph steered his horse through the middle and then swerved onto a side street that the fire hadn't yet touched. Most horses would have refused to budge in a fire like this, or would be rearing up in wild panic. But the old nag was calm, and Joseph barely had to snap the reins to keep her moving quickly. Joseph is taking us to the nearest bridge, Mr. Morrow said. We'll cross the river there and make our way to my house. There are fires on the other side, but nothing like this. Mr. Morrow shook his head. I can't believe it, Oscar, he said. So much is gone. The courthouse was in ruins, Mr. Morrow said. So were the new opera houses, the grand department stores, and the huge factories and train depots. Thousands of houses were gone. I don't know what will be left when this is all over, Mr. Morrow said. The bridge came into view. It was wide, with a roadway in the center and two narrow walkways on either side. Oscar's heart sank as he saw the hundreds of people knotted together on the bridge, the dozens of buggies creeping along. Charlie, Joseph said, you're better off on foot, and I need to get up to my sister's house to check on her. Of course, Mr. Morrow said. He and Oscar climbed out, and Mr. Morrow reached up to shake hands with Joseph. Thanks, I'll see you, friend, Mr. Morrow said. You sure will, Joseph said, but Oscar could see the doubt in both men's eyes. They were standing in front of a paint warehouse, and Mr. Morrow looked at the bridge. His face was etched with worry. I don't like the look of that bridge, he said. The roadway is made of wood. It could burn at any time. If the fire comes, all those people would be trapped. It would be complete panic. Oscar remembered the horror of being stuck in a stampeding crowd with Jenny and Bruno. He knew Mr. Monroe was right. That the bridge was unsafe, but how else could they get across the river? He looked out on the water. Farther up were boats, steaming and sailing in both directions, but this stretch was mostly empty. There, Mr. Morrow said, spotting a rowboat tied up along a riverbank. I I used to row across all the time when I was a kid. It takes just a few minutes. They hurried to the boat. Climb in, Mr. Morrow said. I'm going to see if I can find another set of oars. It was only when Oscar got into the boat that he realized his whole body was shaking. But the thought of seeing Mama made him feel stronger. Here, Mr. Morrow said, handing Oscar a set of oars. We're going to have to move very quickly soon. They had shoved off and were rowing with all their might. Oil fumes rose up and something worse. That slaughterhouse stench. Garbage and dead rats floated around them. With so many factories lining the shores, Oscar knew the water must be a filthy witch's brew. The wind blew hard, sending showers of sparks over the river. Shouts and screams rang out from the bridge. Oscar saw a wagon in the middle of the bridge. Bridge railway had caught fire. Oscar closed his eyes and tried to block out the screams. Next, next came splashes, and Oscar refused to think about what or who was falling off the bridge and into the river. He looked in the other direction and gasped in horror. A large sailboat was racing through the water. The mast was burning. There was nobody at the helm. It looked like a ghost ship, evil and glowing. It was heading right for them. Chapter 14. Row faster, Oscar, Mr. Morrow shouted, but the flaming boat was too big and moving too quickly for them to get out of the way in time. Oscar, Mr. Morrow said, can you swim? Yes, Oscar said. Good, he said. Swim to shore. When you get to the other side, get yourself to Lake Shore. Why was Mr. Morrow telling him this? There was no time to ask. The burning ship was closing in. Jump! Mr. Morrow cried. Oscar threw himself over the side. The cold water slapped him and burned his skin. He started swimming as fast as he could, keeping his eyes and mouth closed against the foul water. Crash! Sparks flew up all around as the flaming ship hit the rowboat, slicing it in half and setting it on fire. Oscar kept swimming. He glanced over his shoulder, expecting to see Mr. Morrow right beside him, but he wasn't. Oscar stopped and turned, turning his legs and arms to stay afloat. Through the smoke, he saw something bobbing in the water. It was Mr. Morrow clinging to a small piece of wood and struggling to keep his head above water. Now Oscar understood why Mr. Morrow didn't think he could make it to the other side of the river. He couldn't swim. Oscar should have known. Papa couldn't swim either. Even though he grew up near the ocean, Mama was one of the few people Oscar knew who could swim. And it was she who had taught Oscar. Keep going, Oscar, Mr. Morrow cried. Oscar saw a huge piece of wood floating near him. He grabbed it and kicked as hard as he could to get to Mr. Morrow. Mr. Morrow, grab hold! Mr. Morrow looked up in surprise and relief as Oscar thrust the wood towards him. And that's when Oscar noticed that back on the south shore from where they just escaped, the roof of the paint warehouse had caught fire. His heart leaped into his throat. Any minute there would be a massive explosion. They had to get away now. They both clung to the makeshift racks, kicking frantically, and then kaboom! Behind them, the paint factory exploded with a deafening blast. Oscar waited for the crush of burning wood for flames to reach out and grab them, but instead, the force of the explosion created a wave that came up behind them. It propelled them forward out of the fire's reach toward the safety of the north shore. They landed with a thud on the muddy riverbank. Oscar looked back, amazed, to see that the river itself was now on fire. He could barely believe they'd made it, yet he felt little relief. Oscar stared over the flaming river. The entire south side of the city was in the grip of fire and smoke, and somewhere in the middle of it all were Jenny and Bruno. Oscar told Mr. Moe all about them as they trotted away from the river. Mr. Moe listened closely, and Oscar sensed that he was using Oscar's words to paint a picture of Bruno and Jenny in his mind. "We'll find them, Oscar," he kept saying. I found you, didn't I?" But the search for Jenny and Bruno would have to wait, because once again Oscar and Mr. Moa found themselves in the fight for their lives. They kept trying to get back to Mr. Moa's house, but the wind grew stronger and stronger, sweeping ferocious fires all around the north side of the river. Entire blocks burned within minutes. Flames chased after Oscar and Mr. Morrow. Each time they thought they were safe, a new fire would erupt, and they were on the run again. Their last hope was Lake Michigan, which stretched out to the east of the city. As the fires closed in behind them, they waded into the freezing water, ready to duck under if the flames attacked. There were hundreds of people all around them, and the crowd grew to thousands as the night wore on. There were entire families with their horses and with the wagons piled high with furniture, fancy ladies in their ruffled dresses and jewels. Children who had been separated from their parents, they all stood gasping in the smoky air, shivering in the freezing water. The hours crept by, the sun came up, and still the fire raged out of control. It would be another endless day before finally the fire began to tire. When the winds lost their fury, when it was finally safe enough to wade out of the freezing water, it took hours more for Oscar and Mr. Morrow to make their way back to his house in the pouring rain. They were numb with cold and shock, miserable with thirst, and wheezing in the smoky air. But finally they made it to Mr. Morrow's stone house, one of the few houses still standing, and there on the porch was Mama. Oscar got the idea that she'd been standing there for days. She sprinted off the porch and into the drenching rain to meet them. Her face was as pale as bone. Oscar ran to her, throwing himself into her arms. They fell to their knees, their tears mixing with the raindrops that put out the last flickering flames of Chicago's fire.